Welcome everyone to the final round of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. This really exciting second season of online competition is coming to a close tonight, sadly, with two races around the magnificent Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. And although the Pro Driver Championship has been wrapped up, there is still plenty to play for across the Pro Sim class, the Teams Championship, and for some of the minor placings across all three of those championship tables. It's certainly going to be a pair of races you don't want to miss. Andy McEwen here up in the commentary box. This is the setting then for the championship deciders, the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, which is one of the real drivers' favourites, one of the most famous circuits in the United Kingdom. It has a little bit of everything: high-speed corners, tight overtaking opportunities, and some real undulations through Paddock Hill Bend and up to Druids, and then down through Pilgrim's Drop onto the ultra high speed and unforgiving Grand Prix loop. This is the ultimate challenge, and it will be the perfect place to round out what has been a thoroughly entertaining season of racing. We've enjoyed already 6 cracking races, 2 at Donington Park to start the season off, then another 2 at the Snetterton 300 circuit. Just a week ago, we were at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit there, where we had 2 races, which again continued to change the dynamic of the championship slightly, although the title was wrapped up at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit with Luke Browning, who came so close to winning Season 1 of the iRacing Trophy, coming out on top in Season 2. But behind him, some real stories still to be concluded. We've got the next 3 drivers in the championship in the pro class: Roman Belinski, Ascii and Fred Lubin, all covered by just 7 points. So those 3 are going to go head-to-head over the course of the 2 races tonight to try and secure the runners-up spot. They've all been regular front runners throughout the course of the season. In the Pro Sim category, Pablo Lopez took the championship lead away from Alex Palau, IndyCar star Alex Palau. The 2 of them are teammates at Team Fordzilla, but Palau was testing at Laguna Seca last weekend, so he wasn't able to race with us, understandably. He is, though, I'm delighted to say, back with us tonight, and he's trying to overcome what is a reasonably big championship deficit that he finds himself in over his teammate. But stranger things have happened at championship deciders over the years, so Alex Palau is most definitely still in it. And then, even if he doesn't win the championship, he's only 6 points clear of Alex Johnson, 3rd place in the Pro Sim category, so that is an interesting battle to keep an eye on. And speaking of Team Fordzilla, they've all but wrapped up the team's championship. They just need to survive the first race tonight, really, without suffering any major setbacks, and Ford's official esports team will wrap up the team's title. The only team that can beat them are JHR Development. They're just over 100 points back, 103 to be precise, arriving here at Brands Hatch. And certainly they are on the outside looking in as far as the team's championship's concerned, but they'll be going all out to try and score some valuable points over the course of the 2 races tonight. We're well into the free practice session before the race event gets underway properly. The format, for those of you who are new here, we will have a qualifying session coming up at the end of this practice session. That sets the grid for race 1. And then race 2 features a fully reversed grid. So all of the drivers classified at the end of race 1 within 1 lap of the leader will be reversed to form the grid for race 2, and that's the race where many of these championship battles are going to be decided. So what better way to heap the pressure onto the shoulders of the drivers than with a reversed grid final round of the season. Well, as usual, I'm not alone here in the virtual comms booth. I'm delighted to be joined once more by the press officer for the British Formula 4 Championship, Damien Meaden, who's been alongside me throughout the course of the season. And Damien, great to have you here as always. It seems like only yesterday that we were kicking off Season 2 of the iRacing Trophy at Donington Park. An awful lot has happened since then, the vast majority of it really good, though. And I, for one, am really looking forward to seeing what these final 2 races have in store for us.
Yeah, time really flies when you're having fun, doesn't it, Andy? Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming along and being part of the stream. It's great to have you with us. And as you've already touched upon, Andy, Brands Hatch, the GP circuit, what a setting to resolve some really interesting battles that we followed over the course of the season. 6 races down, 2 to go, and I can't wait to see who's going to come out on top tonight.
Yeah, the as I said, the only championship that has been wrapped up is the pro title, and Luke Browning won that, having won 4 of the 6 races so far. And we know, Damien, that he's not racing tonight. He's instead focusing on helping his teammates. So one last chance then for us to wax lyrical about what a brilliant job he's done. 4 wins from 6 races, and only outside the top 2 once within his class. I mean, that is a championship-winning performance if ever I saw one.
Yeah, it's a near perfect record for Luke, isn't it? And as you say, taking the decision tonight to step out of the driving seat and help the Fordzilla guys. They've obviously got a Pro Sim title battle and wrapping up the Team's Cup on their hands. So busy evening for all of them. And Luke electing to sit that one out. But he's had a great season. And if anything, him not being here tonight really gives an opportunity for that battle for P2 in the championship in that class to take centre stage. So I think we're still going to be treated to 2 great races regardless.
Yeah, most definitely, and we'll delve into the battle for second place in the Pro Championship in a moment or two, because it really is very exciting. But there is, I think, just about time for us to have one more catch-up with our champion, Luke Browning, who joins us now. Luke, thank you for taking some time out of your evening to come and have a chat with us. Congratulations once again. I know we said this to you a week ago, but you are the champion in Season 2. Has it started to sink in a bit now?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thanks for the warm welcome. Yeah, this is going to be an exciting race tonight. It's a nice feeling, obviously, being champion. And yeah, I'm looking forward to sitting and watching tonight. And, you know, I'm looking out for the Fordzilla guys.
Yeah, so talk us through a little bit what your role is then. I guess a lot of your job has been done in the week leading up to the event. I guess now you can just sort of sit back and see what they've learned from you, but have there been some private testing sessions going on? Have you just been chatting to them all about setups or driving styles? What have you been trying to teach those guys?
Yeah, well, obviously, I come into the private sessions and stuff and help them out there, but it'll be mainly just spotting, you know, and checking when they're clear and giving over a little bit of advice of when I think it would be good to overtake and when not to overtake. I'll do a little bit of research, almost like it'll be like a second Damien in there to hopefully do some point tallies and see where they need to finish where, and see if they're safe or not. But as it looks going into this, like you mentioned earlier, with a 100-point gap to JHR, it looks pretty clear and settled. But you never know; you can't hold these things back.
Are you a driver personally who quite enjoys that sort of information overload then? Because I know there are 2 different schools of thought. There are the drivers, the Kimi Raikkonens of the world, who just want to be left alone and left to get on with the job. And then there are those that quite like to know what the points are like, where their rivals are, who the nearest car is, when they should attack, when they should defend. Which of those camps do you fall into?
For sure, yeah. I prefer to have all the information I can, really. I was always one on the board, for example, in real life, to have sort of all the information laid out, or my board would be sort of heavily filled with how much of a gap there is, or you know, what I need to do to finish where. And you know, I think it's important just to, when you get in the car, focus on exactly what you need to do with driving, and then if you can try and put all this sort of information out your head, and because I just quite like a reminder, so that I don't have to sort of retain all this information in my head otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, just driving the car is about as much information as I can retain. So if I've got someone chatting away to me, I suppose it might be a bit distracting. But that's where I'm a commentator, and you guys get out there and race the cars, both in the real world and the virtual. Speaking of virtual racing, what have you thought of the grid that we've had for this season with the mix of real world and these pro sim drivers? I think I've spoke to you about this before. Some of them are really genuinely quick, aren't they? Have you been impressed with the strength in depth we've had in the grid?
Oh, huge amounts. I mean, you know, to put it into perspective, I mean, the Fordzilla team here are the ones that headed up Split 1 in GT3 around the Daytona 24 hour not so long ago. So, you know, it's absolutely no shy cast at all to for the real drivers to be missing out on these guys. I mean, you know, the amount of preparation and just pure talent and skill these guys have on the sim. Like, for example, Julian, he qualified for us. You know, he's the fastest driver in the car when it came to that for Fordzilla, and he's the one that qualified it, not me. So, you know, there's some real talent on the grid, and you know, some of that's down to the sim drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a joy to watch. It really has. And I've really enjoyed seeing the 2 classes mixed. In almost every race, we end up getting these good battles between the real drivers and the pro sims, and there's very little to choose usually between them. It's been a joy watching you this season, Luke. Congratulations again on the championship. I hope you enjoy your slightly more I was going to say slightly more laid-back role tonight, but wherever there's maths concerned, I'm sure that's guaranteed to cause a bit of stress somewhere down the line. So best of luck with that, and best of luck for the future.
No problem. Well, thank you very much. Cheers.
No worries, Luke. So Luke Browning then, your champion in Season 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Yeah, he's not bad, is he, Damien? He's quite good in a real car. He's really good in a sim as well. Yeah, Damien may have disappeared somewhere. I think he's probably doing some quick mental arithmetic now. He's getting his brain into gear, because I know your brain is really going to be tested tonight with these calculations, isn't it?
Not so much my brain. I was just busy getting my Wi-Fi into gear, but glad to say I'm back important. Now. Yes, it is, definitely. It's worth noting, I was just watching some of the cars going round whilst you were chatting. Just worth pointing out to people that we use the iRacing track limits, the inbuilt system, so they are able to take a little bit more leeway than they might be able to in real life, particularly at an MSV circuit. But everybody's being judged to the same system, and obviously the game will pick up when they've overstretched the mark.
Yeah, and of course, driving on the grass like that, and indeed the grass, Roman Belinski, who is currently fastest in this free practice session, just getting it a bit wrong through clearways. A lot of the times when you do exceed track limits, you don't really gain anything anyway. So the game, I think, when that's the case, it tends to allow you to get away with it a bit more than somewhere like Silverstone, for example, a week ago, where running wide into a tarmac runoff area is a different story altogether. Let's talk then, shall we, about some of our specific stories that we're following over the course of the night. And Damien, I want to start with this fight for second in the championship in the pro class. Roman Belinski, 76 points. Kai Ascii, third, 69. Joint third, in fact, with Frederick Lubin also on 69. The stats tell me that Belinski should have this. He's had a win. He's had a couple of second places. He's had a third as well. In fact, in the 4 races he's competed in, he's been on the podium every time. And he's still second in the points despite not racing at all at Snetterton. So can we look past Belinski for that second place, or is he the strong favourite?
I was just about to mention that missed round at Snetterton, but you beat me to the punch. No, Roman's form has been fantastic. If you look at it, second and third at Donington, and then second and first at Silverstone. So you'd have to say he certainly arrives with a good form book behind him. But so do the others. You know, Frederick Lubin arrives having finished second in that reverse grid race at Silverstone. We obviously watched them have an amazing battle on track. And Kai Ascii has been really consistently up the front. So you've already mentioned that it's the season finale and anything can happen. I think Roman's definitely had the strongest race-by-race results, but we'll have to wait and see whether that translates into P2 by the end of the night for him.
Yeah, of course, and it's highly likely that this will come down to the second race, because there are 25 points available for a race win. So the chances of either Belinski, Ascii or Lubin going into that second race more than 25 points ahead, well, only Belinski could even mathematically do that, and I'd be surprised if he did. So it's likely to go down to the reverse grid race, and that's where good fortune really is just as important as good speed and racecraft. Now, on to the Pro Sim class then, and that is a slightly different story. We still have a championship to be decided, don't we? Because this one hasn't yet been wrapped up, but there is a bigger separation between the drivers of note. Pablo Lopez is 33 points ahead of Alex Palau, his teammate, with Alex Johnson. Mathematically, I think if we're going to count Palau as a challenger, we have to count Johnson as one too. A similar story with Belinski, really, isn't it, though, as we have with Palau. Palau missed the previous rounds at Snetterton, yet still is second in the points. My fear, though, is that 33 points might be a bit much for him to overcome.
Yeah, it is quite a tall order, and Pablo has had really good form. You mentioned Luke Browning only not finishing on the podium once, but it's the same in his case as well. You know, third, first, second, fifth, second, first. It's a pretty good return from 6 races so far for Pablo. So he is going to take some stopping, and it's absolutely imperative that Palau outscores him in that first race to keep himself, you know, within arm's reach of that. He's going to need to be within 25 points after the end of the first race tonight. On count back, he's still got a chance to beat Lopez, so I suppose that might be something we'll have to keep an eye on as the night goes on. But for Pablo, the best thing he can do now is get pole position, get the first race win of the night, and wrap it up early before we get into the reverse grid and everything that throws up.
And I think I'm right in saying, and you'll correct me, I'm sure, if I'm wrong here, that even if Palau wins his class in this first race, I think second place is still enough for Lopez. That would be a 7-point swing, and Palau needs to outscore him by 8 points or more, I think, to get within that magic 25. So that is a tall order, but, you know, this is Alex Palau. He's a damn good racing driver in the real world. He doesn't race in IndyCar for nothing. And, you know, on this particular circuit, qualifying will be crucial, won't it? They both will really want to try and get themselves as close to the front of the grid as possible. And if Palau can out-qualify Lopez, that's certainly a step in the right direction. And then, Damien, you add in this really interesting dynamic of the fact that they are teammates as well. We had this with Lulham and Browning for the overall title a year ago, or not even a year ago, in season 1. Same story now for Fordzilla. They've got the team's championship almost wrapped up, but 2 of their drivers going hell for leather for the title.
Yeah, I mean, the healthy gap they've got in the Teams Cup would probably suggest to me that they do have a little bit of room for manoeuvre as far as battling each other on track goes. So I don't think they'll be worried too much about that. They've got the strength in numbers and they've got a big enough gap that I think that'll probably come home with them tonight. So it will be about the on-track battles. They were really close in the practice session. We'll have to see what happens now as qualifying gets underway.
Yeah, qualifying is now underway then. This is a 10-minute qualifying session, and the cars are all out on the circuit together. Correct me if I'm wrong, but have we not had lone qualifying sessions in the past, Damien? This looks like a slightly different format now, with all of the cars out on the circuit. Just throwing an extra little curveball at the drivers here for the final rounds. Not an easy track in which to deal with traffic, this one, so that is certainly going to add an extra layer of complication to this 10-minute qualifying session. It will take them a lap or so, though, to get up to any sort of real speed. It was Roman Belinski who was fastest in practice, though, so you would expect that he is likely to be one of the pace setters again in this qualifying session. The final question I have to pose for you, points-wise, Damien, then, on the subject of the team's championship. Fordzilla, we've already said several times, they're looking good for the title, but second, third and fourth could still change, couldn't it? You've got JHR on 166. They're 40 points ahead of Fortec, who are only 4 points clear of Carlin. How likely are we to see a bit of shuffling for second, third and fourth, do you think?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that develops. JHR do have quite a comfortable lead over Fortec, and of course with Luke not racing tonight, that means that Fortec won't be scoring any points. So I think with Carlin having Balinsky and Ascii running well in most races, we'll probably see them move up into the top 3. And also for Alcantech Simulation with Fiercely Forward, you know, sitting 5th at the moment, they're only 2 points further back from Carlin, so they might well be able to jump up another position too. And there's battles going on up and down the order in the team's championship. You know, you've got the battle for 6th, for example. Vulcan Sim Racing are only 1 point ahead of Fiercely Forward, and a little bit further back, Richardson only 2 points ahead of Year 1. So it'll be interesting to see how those battles develop across the night as well. I think I'm going to be busy with my calculator.
Yes, definitely. This is the main reason, honestly, that you're here, because I can't count to save my life. So, yes, I'm hoping that Damien's spreadsheet is going to keep us on top of all of the points permutations. But yeah, you're right. I think with the possible exception of Fordzilla, there isn't a single team that is particularly safe in their current position. They could either lose or gain ground quite easily over the course of the 2 races tonight. Right then, qualifying starting to step up a gear now. Drivers are beginning to put in some relatively quick times. The fastest we've had so far has been set by Pablo Lopez, 1 minute 17.8. That is just under half a second quicker than Kai Ascii, who has gone second, Ashley Beard third, and Dan Blake fourth. That's already out of date, though, because Kevin Zemstra goes second and is immediately pipped by Leon Penn, who sets a near identical time to Pablo Lopez, just 2/1000ths of a second slower than Lopez. Here is Lopez's Pro Sim Championship rival coming across the start-finish line. That was Alex Palau, but that was not a fully representative time. He still finds himself down in 17th position. Leon Penn on your screens now. Second place for Leon. 4th in the Pro Sim Championship battle, and he is mathematically still in contention, well, for the title, but certainly for second place. He could catch Palau and definitely Alex Johnson. He's 12 points behind Johnson, 16 behind Palau. So Leon Penn, if he can keep this sort of pace up, could still gain further ground in the championship. And again, if you are new or you've just forgotten since last week, oh, Leon Penn has lost it. I thought he nearly saved that through Westfield. A big spin, though, and thankfully keeps the car out of the barriers, but that will have done damage to the tyres. Certainly it's cost him that lap time, and just to rub salt into the wounds, as he had that spin, other drivers have started to improve. Lopez has moved the goalpost now with pole position time up to a 1:16.82. Belinski goes second, Johnson third, Lubin fourth, and Leon Penn finds himself backwards, and fifth, now make that sixth, because Silas Cragg-Froelich has gone into fourth position. I will finish this point that I was about to make, which is that if you are new here, the graphic on the left-hand side of your screen is obviously showing the qualifying result as it stands. The black lines on the left-hand side of the drivers' names indicate that is a pro class driver. The sort of minty green line is indicating a pro sim, and as usual we're seeing quite a bit of mixing of the classes. A big spin that was there for Leon Penn, wasn't it, Damien? But he did really well to keep it out of the Armco. Yeah,
I was watching that thinking any moment the car is going to get a complete swap on and head for the barrier. So he did really well to keep that out of the wall. Somebody else doing really well at the moment, Belinski, only 0.07 of a second off pole position, and this looks like another quick lap at the moment, Andy, as he comes down towards clearways and up to finish it.
Yes, I was going to say he needs less than 1/10 of a second to get pole position, but others are improving. Lopez now goes to a 1:16.6. Alex Johnson goes second. What can Roman Belinski do? He's already the fastest pro driver in the session. He goes back to the top of the times overall. A 1:16.28 is now 3.5 quicker than Lopez. Johnson goes third, and Mackenzie Cresswell goes fourth. Now, we've seen good things from Mackenzie in qualifying this season, haven't we? There he is going down into Hawthorne Corner, the JHR Developments driver. Bang on the pace again tonight, isn't he?
Yeah, and it's not just qualifying. We've seen some really good race results from Mackenzie, who, of course, will be doing the Real World Series with JHR a little bit later this year. Took a podium at Snetterton. He got second place behind Browning in that race, and you have to get up early in the morning to nearly beat Luke Browning on iRacing. He had a bit of bad luck at the end of the Silverstone round. If you remember, he actually tangled with Browning on the opening lap of the reverse grid race. But showing a good pace again here, Mackenzie, and he'll be looking to end this virtual season, if you like, on a high.
Fordzilla, meanwhile, their drivers have had a bit of a habit of getting themselves together so far this season. They've just done that again. They were second, third and fourth in the session, but whilst Julian Rodriguez still retains second place, Mackenzie Cresswell, who were following on that lap, splits the Fordzilla drivers in third. Pablo Lopez is fourth, and Alex Palau fifth. So the two championship rivals in the Pro Sim class are together, except they're not, because Pablo Lopez now goes back to pole position with a 1:16.14. This is boiling down, isn't it, to a really tasty battle for pole position between Lopez and Belinski. They keep on trading times. Belinski's previous lap was a personal best, but it wasn't quite as quick as Lopez. So Lopez it is that has the advantage now by 1/10.5. Thomas Pintos now in the Team DUX gaming car comes through Sterling's. He's dropped down into 9th place now. As we've had a few more improvements inside the top 10. Nathaniel Hodgkiss, for example, has just jumped into 6th, but Pintos now he's got full tyre temperature and pressures built up, should be able to improve. 10th at the moment, comes across the start-finish line. Pintos was over a second away from pole position, and actually that's where he stays, because whilst that was an improvement in time, it didn't see him move up from 10th position. He's just ahead of Dan Blake, who is, I think, just behind Frederick Lubin here on track. Lubin further down than I thought he'd be here, Damien. Maybe just hasn't quite got a clean lap in yet, but 14th from Frederick is not quite what we expect for the man who is joint third in the championship. Now, is this a mute issue? Is it a Wi-Fi issue? I wonder for Damien. We've lost Damien Meaden, I think, for the time being.
Sorry, Andy, it was a little bit of both. Genuinely, my internet's been gone for the last minute or so. It literally came back as you threw to me. So, perfect timing. But you're going to have to repeat your question. Sorry.
Well, that was at least 30 seconds ago, Damien. I'm not sure I can remember. Frederick Lubin was a little bit off colour, further down the order than he should be. He was 14th. He's now 9th. But typically, by the time I got the question out, he had managed to improve. But still, Frederick Lubin needs more than that if he's to beat Belinski and Ascii.
Yeah, but Frederick Lubin, one of the really experienced guys in terms of the real-world drivers on the sim. So I'm sure he's just getting into the groove, and we have seen plenty of late improvements from him in the past. So he's got time on his side, a couple of minutes yet. Worth noting that when the clock hits 10 minutes, it's not like Formula One. They won't be allowed to complete their flying lap. They will be interrupted. So time really of the essence for those who want to get a final flyer in.
One of whom is Kai Ascii. Kai Ascii is 18th fastest, and what's his best lap time? His best lap time 1:18.2. Over a second off pole position for the Carlin driver. We're on board with him now. Kai Ascii is, remember, third in the Pro Championship, 7 points off the lead, and in fact joint third with Frederick Lubin, who we were just watching. Now Belinski is the man he's chasing. Belinski's on the front row, so Ascii really needs to jump up the order here. He's 2 seconds off pole position and only finds 3/10. Look at that, 17th place for Kai Ascii. He does not look happy out there. The car was understeering a bit there, I think, going through Paddock Hill Bend, and possibly he's not happy with the setup, and he will be even less happy now, because Roman Belinski, who was second, is now first with the new fastest lap of the session. a 1 minute 16.0, 6/100ths of a second quicker than Pablo Lopez, whilst up into third goes Julian Rodriguez, and fourth for Palau. So it's Balinsky, then the three Fordzilla drivers, with Alex Johnson fifth. And Damien, there's a distinct lack of pro drivers inside the top 10. Just 3 of our top 10 drivers are pros, and no longer is the pole sitter a pro driver, because Julian Rodriguez, yet again, everything Balinsky has, Rodriguez seems to have an answer for.
Yeah, but only just, mind, 81 thousandths of a second. That's mighty close, that is. And Alex Palau has also managed to get ahead of Pablo Lopez, so that could be crucial for the Pro Sim category. Just to round out the point about Ascii, clearly an off session. He has had the pace all through the season, so maybe something's gone on there that we haven't seen. But obviously the reverse grid race rounds out the night. So assuming he doesn't do a traditional Ascii charge through the field, he will be towards the front for race 2.
Pablo Lopez onto the front row. It's now an all Fordzilla 1-2, but Roman Belinski is still yet to finish this lap. The checkered flag's out. He needs to get there quickly. He's got a slipstream to the start-finish line. The lap will be registered. How quick is it? It's not going to be enough, is it? Because it is an improvement in time, but not position for Belinski. He will stay third, but Damien, the top 4 cars covered by less than 1/10 of a second. It is Julian Rodriguez who is on pole, Lopez second, Balinsky third, and Alex Palau in 4th place. Now, who else is still on the lap? James Headley is. Alex Palau is just about to finish a lap as well. Now, what can Palau do? Because Lopez has now gone back ahead of him onto the front row of the grid, and Alex Palau takes pole position right at the death. A 1 minute 15.93 is 6/100ths quicker than Julian Rodriguez. That is exactly what the Spaniard needed. A fantastic performance right at the very end of the session, and he pulled it out of the bag. Brilliant.
Yeah, he absolutely needed that, and that's thrown the gauntlet down a little bit, hasn't it? Lopez now is going to have to go on the attack in this first race. If they finish where they start at this point, the 2 Fordzilla drivers, it would go down to the last race. So Lopez has got some overtaking to do.
Yeah,
which is excellent news for us.
Absolutely. I was already pumped for this. I'm now particularly excited about what's going to happen. Remember, if Palau wins the class, Lopez needs second to win the title in race 1. If not, it will go down to the reverse grid race, which I'm sure will do Pablo Lopez's nerves absolutely no good at all. Well, that was an exhilarating qualifying session, and here is how it finished, with Alex Palau and Julian Moreno on an all Fordzilla row 1. And in fact, it's a Fordzilla 1-2-3. That's the first time they've done that in qualifying. Pablo Lopez third, and Roman Balinsky, the top pro driver, in 4th. Kevin Zemstra and Alex Johnson make up the 3rd row ahead of Ashley Beard and Mackenzie Creswell. Then it's Leon Penn. Nathaniel Hodgkiss rounds out the top 10 ahead of Frederick Lubin, who, remember, is dicing with Balinsky for second in the Pro Championship. With some progress to be made there. He's got Silas Krag-Vrolik alongside, and that might be Silas's best qualifying effort of the season. We'll get that confirmed for you if we can. Dan Blake is 13th on the 7th row with David Castilla. Then it's Thomas Pintos and Ryan Mikulev ahead of Ascii and James Headley, who definitely need to move forward, especially Ascii if he's to finish second in the pro title race. Roldan Rodriguez and Jaco Van Platt round out the top 20. Luke Browning officially is 21st, but I don't believe he'll be there. Matt Crisp and Joseph Loke, I should say, should be at the back of the grid. Dean Timms is our clerk of the course, so is logged into the session, but won't actually be racing. So it will be Crisp and Loke at the back, and possibly Georgi Dimitrov. Right then, Damien, prediction time. Who wins the race, first of all? What do you think, a Fordzilla driver or someone else?
Oh, no, unfortunately, Andy, you're forgetting that I'm British, so I'm going to sit on the fence about it and not make a prediction either way. No, in all seriousness, I think we're going to have some absolute fireworks here, and I can't wait.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. This first corner is critical because it's not easy to overtake here on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. So the launch from the line up that steep hill look into Paddock Hill Bend is tricky, especially from pole position. You can really see from this camera angle the way the track slopes from our right to left. So starting on pole, as Alex Palau has to, is not always such an advantage because you're accelerating off camber and steeply uphill. Will that mean maybe that Julian Rodriguez can seize the lead into turn number 1? Well, we're seconds away from finding out because the grid is formed, the red lights are coming on. The penultimate round of Season 2 for the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy is about to get underway. Alex Palau on pole position with a championship to win, and Julian Rodriguez alongside him. The lights are out, away they go. Palau makes a demon start, gets into Paddock Hill Bend first. Will it still be a Fordzilla 1-2-3? Yes, it will, because Roman Balinsky stays 4th. Alex Johnson and Kevin Zemstra are side by side for 5th position, but it's team formation for the blue and black cars as they make their way through Druids for the first time. Still the first side by side battle is that one for 5th, and that is for 4th place in the Pro Sim category. On the outside is Zemstra. On the inside, the red car was Alex Johnson. They're delaying each other, so Mackenzie Creswell, Nathaniel Hodgkiss and Frederick Lubin are trying to join in. In the end, Zemstra holds on for 5th position. Perfect start there, Damien, for the Fordzilla team, especially Palau, because he's already getting away out in front and has still kept that car, that all-important car, between himself and his championship rival Lopez.
Yeah, that was exactly what the doctor ordered for Alex Palau. As you mentioned, not easy to get off the line from pole position here and hold it into turn 1, and there's an incident further back. Oh, I think we've had a couple of cars involved in that.
Oh! Yeah, Silas Krag-Vrolik is the fiercely forward car that, ironically, is not facing forward or going particularly fiercely. It was a fairly fierce impact that it had, though, with another car that came through. I'm trying to figure out who this is. This is on board with Silas, coming through Hawthorne. Cold tyres, I think, is all that was. And then he's pointing the wrong way. Might have been one of the DUX cars that he collided with. We'll try and figure that out. And then another car arrives on the scene. That, I think, was Matthew Crisp in the 18. Nathaniel Hodgkiss is also in the pit lane, having some repairs done. End of lap 1, and Palau is getting away. He's 1 second clear already. What a brilliant start that was. Silas Krag-Vrolik was struggling on cold tyres, but no such issues for Palau. Rodriguez can't keep up with him, and he, Lopez and Belinski are nose to tail in their fight for 2nd place.
Yeah, well, here's one of the issues they're going to have as Palau stretches his legs out front. Lopez will want to get past Rodriguez, and he'll probably have half a mind to, not make it too difficult for him if he were going to make a move. But of course, their battling has kept Belinski right on their tail. They can't afford to start messing around, because he will take any opportunity that comes his way to move up the order. And as we see, one of the cars in front, Lopez, goes just a little bit wide. That's brought Belinski onto the tail of them. But yeah, they certainly can't afford to relax up there in 2nd and 3rd at the moment.
Well, as Lopez ran wide out of Hawthorne, then Belinski did exactly the same at the next corner. This is that dirty air, isn't it, starting to take effect? This circuit, more than arguably any of the others we've raced at in this season, is probably the hardest to follow closely behind another car, because you've got all of these really high-speed corners, and they're very often over blind crests. So the car is light, it doesn't really have downforce anyway, and then you add in the turbulent air, and it's very easy to find yourself running off the road. So that is exactly what makes overtaking such a challenge here at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. And it may well be that discretion is the better part of valour, especially for Belinski, who doesn't really need to worry about racing those cars in front, because they're not in his class. This man needs to do some overtaking, though, and he is doing. Kai Ascii up 5 positions already. We said he had to make progress. He's into 12th place now. But, Damien, more importantly, that is 4th place in the class. So, although he is still behind Belinski and Lubin, he's not losing actually that many points.
No, I was just about to make that exact point there, Andy. He's only 4th in class. You'll spot the graphic on the left-hand side of your screen. The black-coloured cars are in the Pro class, and the sort of minty green are in the Pro Sim. So Ascii, compared to Belinski, doing okay at the moment. Belinski obviously leading, and then Creswell, Lubin and Ascii. So he's got a few cars now between him and Lubin, which is the next car he would score more points if he overtook. But certainly got his head down early on as Kai Ascii, and he's making good progress.
Yeah, and it's Ascii and Lubin, remember, who are tied for 3rd place in the Pro Championship. So if Ascii can get past, first of all, Thomas Pintos and then Dan Blake in front, he might well be able to get onto terms with his championship rival. The biggest mover in the race is this man, Joseph Loke, who has gained 9 positions, would you believe, from the back of the grid to 15th place. Joseph is a really, really good racer with limited single-seater experience. In fact, I'm willing to say no single-seater experience in the real world at this point. He's come out of the world of Ford Fiesta Junior racing in recent years, but he's really acquitted himself well to this iRacing trophy. He's right on the tail now of Roldan Rodriguez, who's a pretty big name, really. Multiple GP2 series podium finisher. He was a winner in the GP2 Asia race series as well, and even bagged himself a couple of Formula 1 test drives with Minardi in 2005. He had a winter job at Force India for a couple of years as well. So this is a pretty big scalp here for Joseph Loke to try and claim. A really good sign, I think, for this young man's future.
Yeah, absolutely. In whatever he does next, and he's definitely acquitted himself well against some really good names, and he's been scoring points consistently. Not a single race so far in this Series 2 of the iRacing Trophy where Joseph Loke has not scored. So got his best result last time out, 5th place at Silverstone, so he'll definitely be looking to keep pushing forward and build on that. But great start. Oh, there's a couple of cars are off, and Frederick Lubin's one of them.
That's Lubin, and the next car on the scene, I think, should surely have been Ascii. So Ascii, yeah, he's gone through. Ascii's gone past both Lubin and Mackenzie Creswell into second place in the pro class. There's another car off. That's Thomas Pintos, who was the other involved in that. He's arrived at Clearways with damage. I want to see a replay of that, but there was side-by-side battling. Here we go. Ashley Beard is in front of these two. Lubin on the inside of, who's that? Creswell, I think. And then bang, as Lubin gets sideways, he's collected. Now, did Ascii get damage as well? Ascii was in the air then as he went across the grass. I'd like to see an onboard maybe from Ascii here, see exactly what happened. This is on board with Lubin. Here is Ascii, so he's just caught up to Dan Blake in front. He's actually making a move and makes a really good move on Dan Blake. Comes out of the corner, there's chaos in front. Oh, just got away with it. I don't see any damage on that Carlin car, and Ascii can be thanking his lucky stars that he got away with that, because not only is there no damage, but he gained several positions, including 2 places within class. That could be really significant, Damien, in this fight for second in the championship.
Well, that was absolutely perfect for Ascii, wasn't it? He's moved himself up to P2 in class. He's too far back, I think, probably to have a go at Roman Belinski before the end of the race. But that does give him the opportunity to start ahead of Belinski for the reverse grid race. So for Ascii, from a bad qualifying, he's managed to actually salvage a really good result there. Not so fortunate for Frederick Lubin and Mackenzie Creswell. Unlucky, I think. I think there was just 2 cars going for the same space, and obviously physics resolved that in its own way.
Yeah, absolutely. So Belinski at the moment is 7 points ahead of Ascii. He's going to double that now, so he'll be 14 ahead as things stand going into the final race of the season. So a 14-point gap would be between Berlinsky and Ascii, and Lubin, of course, is going to drop back further now, because Lubin, although he's not pitted, I don't think, no, he hasn't pitted, but he has dropped all the way down to 17th place. So Fred Lubin is perhaps now going to be the outsider in this fight for second in the Pro Championship, but by my reckoning, it will be a 14-point gap as it stands. And this now puts Roman Belinski in... Oh, hang on, what was that? That was... The point I was about to make is that Belinski doesn't really need to start racing these Fordzilla drivers, because they're all Pro Sim drivers, and each position he gains is only putting him further to the back of the grid for race 2 without actually scoring many extra points. And then Julian Rodriguez threw himself off the road at Westfield, and, well, really, I don't think there was any choice there but for Belinski to go through. Crucially, though, Damien, remember Rodriguez was second place in this race. He no longer is. Pablo Lopez is, and that provisionally, I think, would give him the title, would it not? Answer came then on from Damien. He's either lost his connection or he's not brave enough to give me a definitive answer on the points. We'll get back to Damien in a moment if we can. I think I can hear already the cogs in his head starting to turn as he tries to work out what this means for the championship. But by my reckoning, a win for Palau and a second place for Lopez in class would have been enough for Lopez to wrap up the title. Back with Joseph Loke, who's now gained a remarkable 12 positions on a circuit where it's supposed to be impossible to overtake. His next target is still Roldan Rodriguez, actually. These two are still together. Ashley Beard in front, though, is running wide, so Rodriguez goes through. Dan Blake has just gone past Beard as well. And now I think Joseph Loke will do the same. He's got the slipstream down through Pilgrim's Drop into Hawthorne, through the right-hander, and yeah, he takes the apex, so he must have cleared that car. Joseph Loke is on an absolute mission. He has gained 13 positions. Ascii, just a bit further up the road, has gained 10 position. And this is another one now for Loke, because he's on the inside of Roldan Rodriguez and makes that look very, very easy indeed. But then he goes off the grass and almost bangs wheels with Rodriguez. In fact, he did, and he's sideways. Oh no, Joseph Loke. That is a lot of that hard work undone, and in his haste to get going again, he nearly drives straight into the tyre wall. James Headley has gone through. That puts him down to 15th position, and here is the replay. So he made the move, but just got a wheel on the grass, and he never recovers from that. He bangs wheels with Rodriguez going into the corner because he's out of control, having been on the grass, and that just unsettles the car at the crucial moment, turning into Sterling's, and Joseph Loke in the JHR Developments car sadly spins down the order. Not good news for JHR's Teams Championship hopes. Remember, they could mathematically have beaten Fordzilla in this race, although, let's face it, that was never really on the cards when Fordzilla locked out the top 3 crib positions. But they are also trying to hang on to second place from Fortek and Carlin, and they could really have done with those points that Joseph Loke was on the cusp of scoring. At the front of the field, meanwhile, things are tightening up a bit now. Alex Palau leading the race, and off in the background goes Roman Belinski from third position. Did he gather that one up? Yes, he did, but this is not going to be a repeat of the fastest lap that he set on the previous lap, which was 1:16.2, which I seem to remember is not a million miles away from the qualifying pace that we saw a while ago, and Belinski's off! Belinski is off at Clearways. This is major drama. Roman Belinski with a big spin. Is he going to lose the class lead to Kai Ascii? No, he's not, because Ascii is still a further 7 or 8 seconds down the road. But there he is. The next car behind him now is Kai Ascii, the man that he's fighting for second in the Pro Championship with. And Roman Belinski, well, I'll be honest, I was looking down at my qualifying results when he did that, so I'd like to see a replay of exactly how he managed it into Clearways. He's just had that moment at the back of the circuit, remember, he's under pressure, he just dips a wheel on the grass, and actually that's fairly significant contact with the barrier, so I wonder how much damage that has done to the Carlin kart. Roman Belinski is going to be watching his mirrors now and worrying about just how close Kai Ascii is, and the answer as to how close he is only 2 seconds between them now, whereas he was about 15 seconds ahead of his teammate a lap ago. That spin and subsequent potential damage might just be enough to give Kai Ascii an opportunity to take a class victory, and what would be the most important class victory of the season so far.
This is why I don't do predictions, Andy.
You're back. Good stuff.
Yes.
I don't know whether you were back in time to see that there. A rare escape from Belinski.
Yeah, apologies everybody, just having a few network issues at my end, so I might drop in and out. It's ironic, isn't it, Andy? We get through the whole thing, and then on the series finale, my internet provider decides to have a few issues in the local area. But never mind, and yeah, that could be quite significant. The interesting thing now will be, can Ascii use the slipstream, or can he just catch Belinski and make a move? That would really do his bid for P2 in the pro class, the world of good. But we've seen time and again some great racecraft from Berlinsky over the last few race nights, so it's not going to be easy. And of course they are Carlin teammates, so at the moment they're taking a max 43-point score for Carlin in the teams championship, so they need to be mindful that even though they're not leading this race, there's still a lot to lose if they come together.
Yeah, but I mean, you can apply the same logic to Palau and Lopez at the front of the field. They're teammates, they're part of a 1-2-3 lockout for Fordzilla at the moment, but Palau knows that if things finish as they are now, it's not looking good for the championship. So this battle at the very front of the field, which is about to start kicking off into the final third of the race, is going to, I think, be conforming to a very similar set of rules as this one. Teammates at play, yes, but they all have something to prove. The question I was asking you, Damien, just before you disappeared, was whether or not this would be enough now for Pablo Lopez to wrap up the, provision at least, the Pro Sim Championship, because that mistake from his teammate Rodriguez handed him second place overall in the race, and he's actually catching Palau anyway for the race lead.
I did think about pretending I'd gone again then, just to annoy you, but you've asked a serious question, so I'll give you a serious answer. Yes is the answer. As it stands, Pablo Lopez P2 will be enough, but a bit more pressing, Andy, I think, is this battle between Ascii and Balinsky, which is reaching fever pitch as they head up towards Druids.
Yes, indeed. Side by side through the hairpin at the top of the circuit. I think that Belinski has damage, and here comes Kai Ascii with his chance on the inside at Graham Hill Bend. It's deceptively difficult to finish that move, though, because it's a really awkward corner. The wide line in tends to be the quicker way through. But yeah, I think Belinski's contact with the barriers must have damaged the car, but then Kai Ascii gets a bit too wide going into Surtees, gets 2 wheels on the dirt, and almost throws himself at the scenery as well. So it is back to a second and a half or so between them. Ascii needs to use a little bit of patience here, doesn't he? He knows that he's quicker than Belinski. When Belinski rejoined from his spin, the gap was 3 seconds, and that vanished within 2 further laps. So Ascii clearly has the pace now for whatever reason, be it damage for Belinski or just maybe Belinski's lost confidence after the moment. Whatever it is, he's not as quick as Ascii, so Ascii knows he can afford to be a bit patient here, but how patient he will be prepared to be, I know not. Meanwhile, for Fordzilla, the team headache continues because Lopez in second place is almost being backed up now by Palau into his teammate Julian Rodriguez. I'm not for a second suggesting that that's intentional from Palau, because I'm sure above all else, Alex will want this 1-2-3 finish to stand for the team. But, if Julian Rodriguez were to suddenly be close enough to Lopez to have a go at taking second place, I'm sure Palau wouldn't have any issues with that, would he?
No, I think he'd be quite all right with that. It would definitely keep him in the championship race going into the final round. It's interesting how this gap has fluctuated over the course of the race, Andy. It might be my memory, it might be as bad as my internet provider, but I seem to recall Palau was a little bit further ahead in the opening lap, so he's been reeled in slightly over the race distance.
Yes, and this is sort of my point, because that gap was fairly constant until the moment that Lopez took second place. And then I did notice, that cynical part of my mind going to work again, but I did notice that was the point at which Palau suddenly dropped a few tenths of a second. And that just means that Lopez is close enough now to be running in the dirty air. That will work his tyres, his brakes harder, make it easier for him to make a little mistake. Palau doesn't need to actively mess with Lopez here. He doesn't have to start defending or slowing down dramatically. He just needs to put Lopez in that position where his car isn't handling quite as well as it was, and he might just make a mistake. And I suppose that's almost easier to argue with the team after the race, isn't it, than, oh, I slowed down to try and deliberately hold him up. So whatever is going on here with Palau, he's definitely lost pace, and it's just injecting a bit of last-minute suspense into this Pro Sim Championship.
It is, and just to go back to the battle at the lead of the Pro class, I'm convinced Belinski must have damage of some sort. He was nearly a second slower than Ascii on that last lap, and here we go again, Belinski having to defend as they come out of Graham Hill Bend. These two were running similar pace at the start of the race, so something clearly is up, and Ascii having another go now as they head out onto the GP loop.
That's the move he attempted a lap or so ago, but with a bit more success this time. He still doesn't make the move, but he at least stays on the road. He's got a nice slipstream down Pilgrim's Drop, and Ascii goes to the left-hand side of the road. Belinski was never going to give him the inside. Is Ascii brave enough to go right round the outside of his teammate? The answer is most definitively yes, but he still hasn't got it made. Belinski's got the inside for Westfield Corner, throws it into the right-hander. Ascii is out on the dirt. There are inches between them. These are teammates, remember, at Carlin Motorsport, and they are battling as fiercely as anything, and Ascii's on the grass. Another heart-stopping moment from Kai Ascii as he tried to make the move on Belinski through a corner that you cannot go round the outside of. But Kai Ascii doesn't seem fazed by that, does he? He will go for moves that other drivers simply wouldn't go for. Perhaps it's that relative lack of real-world experience. He hasn't developed the fear factor just yet to bail out of moves like that. That was really exhilarating stuff, and it so nearly went wrong for both of them.
That was fantastic racing. That's exactly why we're all here, you know, in the height of these wintry months to watch online sim racing. That was superb from those two, and I have to say a big shout out to Ascii. He did really well to catch that then. I thought for a minute the front end was going to get away from him and the car was going to swap ends, but he did tremendously well to firstly keep it pointing in the right direction, and secondly he's barely lost any time to Belinski. So I think this battle will be on for the next 2 or 3 minutes, Andy. I think settle back and enjoy this one, folks.
Yeah, well, it's a job now to know where to look, isn't it? Because you've got that pro-class battle, but this is a championship on the line between Palau and Lopez. Lopez has caught Palau by another tenth or so. They were absolutely together going out onto the Grand Prix circuit. And it almost looks, doesn't it now, like Lopez is getting tempted by this. He was weaving out of line. He was looking to the inside into Westfield Corner. If he's starting to think about making a move on his teammate, he needs to be 100% sure that it's going to work and that it's not going to end in the gravel trap for him, because an off-track excursion now would cost him potentially, well, not the championship lead, but certainly it would cost him the provisional championship, because he is, I remind you, Pablo Lopez, in a position right now to take the title if he just stays where he is. It's like Palau is goading him, though, saying, come on, you're close enough, you might as well have a go. Kai Ascii is having a go, though, around the outside at Paddock. How many more times is he going to try and go around the outside of corners that it's impossible to go around the outside of? It's still not going to work, though, because Druids is also a right-hander, but he's finally got the inside for Graham Hill Bend. He's tried this before and it didn't work. Again, they almost bang wheels, and again, they avoid it. Really respectful driving this. I'd say they're pushing this right to the limit of what is acceptable, but they're not going beyond it. At no point have they made contact. At no point has Balinsky thrown a desperate block at Ascii. This is just good, clean racing between the two teammates, and it's going to run right down to the wire, as you said. But the wire, I'm afraid, is with us now, because I think we are on to the final lap of the race. This is the battle for the race lead going down. No, 90 minutes done, sorry, so we should get one more lap after this one. And is Pablo Lopez going to have a go? Comes out of Clearways, through across the start-finish line, into Paddock Hill Bend. One more lap to go. What do you reckon, Damien? Is Lopez going to try and win the championship by winning the race?
I think if Palau makes a mistake, he'll obviously take the gift, but I don't know. It doesn't look to me like the body language of his car, he's setting himself up to make a move. I think he's just making sure that he's in the position, if Palau makes a mistake, that he can capitalise from that. And Balinsky and Ascii, just to go back, tremendous battle there between those two, side by side out of Graham Hill Bend. Balinsky using all the road on the exit. That's allowed on iRacing. We're following their track limit system, and he just managed to stay ahead. But I don't think that battle's over by a long shot. Half a lap to go.
Yep, down Pilgrim's Drop again into Hawthorne, and that is Ascii. Ascii's off, going into Druids. Now, what has happened? Remember, he was battling with his teammate, and this could be the moment that decides who finishes second in the pro category, because not only is Ascii off, but he's struggling to rejoin. Oh no, Belinski lost it. Belinski lost it out of paddock, and Ascii was completely the innocent victim, had nowhere to go. He ran straight into his teammate. That was the fear with those two battling wheel to wheel, wasn't it? There was no malice in that whatsoever, but that was just an unfortunate circumstance with them running absolutely together. Right, Alex Palau is going to win the race. It is his third Pro Sim category race victory, but it's his teammate Pablo Lopez in second, who we think provisionally is the Pro Sim champion. Julian Rodriguez rounds out the 1-2-3 for Fordzilla in the overall result and within the Pro Sim class. And the top 7 drivers, no, make that 8 drivers now, are all going to be Pro Sims, because Alex Johnson came home 4th, Kevin Zemstra is 5th, Dan Blake, who we didn't really mention all race, had a brilliant run there to 6th position for Year 1 Racing. Leon Penn is 7th, Ashley Beard is 8th, and Roman Balinsky in 9th will come home with the victory in the pro class, with Joseph Loke 2nd, Headley 3rd. Frederick Lubin benefited from that. He will be 4th in class. And I don't know what happens with Kai Ascii. So I don't know what's happening there with Joseph Loke, who does a bit of a Paul Swift number coming across the start finish line to finish going in reverse. James Headley is going to be next home, but Kai Ascii is not running at the flag. So Damien, I'm sure, can tell me, does that mean he scores points? Does it mean he doesn't score points? What does this all mean?
Yeah, I'm going to have to get the rule book out and double check that one, Andy. So I'll get back to you. Big shout out to Loke and Headley, both for JHR. That's both their first podiums in class of the series, and I think we've got a confirmed race result coming up.
Yes, we have. Here we go then. Alex Palau takes the win. We don't think it's quite enough for the Pro Sim Championship, but look at how close it was at the front. The top 3 at the line covered by less than a tenth. It was Palau from Moreno from Lopez with... now, hang on. No, that's not the race result, is it? That is the qualifying result, I think. I didn't think that looked right. There we go. Palau with the win. Lopez 2nd. Moreno 3rd. Johnson 4th. Zemstra 5th. Dan Blake 6th. Then it was Leon Penn and Ashley Beard, with Roman Balinsky winning the pro class down in 9th and Frederick Lubin in 10th position. Roldan Rodriguez had a decent race there in 11th. Joseph Loke was 12th, despite for some reason reversing across the finish line. James Headley was 13th ahead of Kai Ascii. Then it was Jaco Van Platt, Silas Krag-Vrolik, who was off on the first lap, remember. Ryan Mikalev, also after a good qualifying for Year 1 Racing, was involved in first lap contact. So too Nathaniel Hodgkiss. Then it was David Castilla, Mackenzie Freswell, Matthew Crisp and Thomas Pintos. And they were the last of the finishers, because we know that Luke Browning, Dean Timson, for some reason, Georgi Dimitrov, were not in the race. And breathe. That was all rather dramatic, wasn't it? I'm not entirely sure what happened with... Well, we know what happened with Balinsky and Ascii. We're going to try and, as well as speak to our overall top 3, we are going to try and drag in Roman Balinsky, who's usually quite happy to talk to us, although he might not be quite so willing to share what happened there with his teammate. But it just looked as though it was an innocent mistake. What I'd like to see is the run into the corner first. This is the end of it. I'd like to see the cars going in. There we go. So inside for Balinsky. He drifts out wide, and Balinsky loses it. No malice at all in it, but how desperately unfortunate for Kai Ascii, who, had that contact not happened, I think he would have gone through, because he finally had got himself to the inside going up the hill towards Druids. But the contact was made, and it's obviously done a lot of damage to the number 15 car, who's been plagued by misfortune, really, in this season. Kai Ascii had that netcode contact at Donington, which took him out of a potential race-winning position in the very first race of the year. And we sort of said then that had that not happened, he might well have had a shot at the championship come the end of the season, but it just wasn't meant to be. So Alex Palau then takes the race victory for Fordzilla ahead of his teammates Pablo Lopez and Julian Rodriguez. We're going to try and get them in for a chat in a moment or two. Don't forget, though, that we still have another race to go. Do not go anywhere, because that is going to be an all-time classic. I think that Ascii and Lubin are probably still mathematically, certainly Lubin will mathematically still be in contention to beat Balinsky for second in the Pro Championship, and we've still got minor placings within the Pro Sim category and the Teams Championship to worry about, so there's still lots to be decided. And of course, we're going to reverse all of the cars that were within one lap of the front at the end of that race, and that is going to be I think everyone down to about 15th or 16th place. So we're going to have a pretty sizable grid reversal with some pretty interesting names towards the front of that race 2 grid. So well worth sticking around for. And that second race is not too far away. But we can now, I think, have a word with, no, we haven't got our race winner with us yet, Alex Palau, but his 2 Fordzilla teammates have arrived outside of the virtual commentary box. We'll just wait and see if Palau's on his way. No, let's start with third. We'll go third, second, first then, shall we? So we'll start with Julian Rodriguez, who finishes in third place in that race. Julian, you were running in second place for a long time. There was a little mistake, I think, wasn't there, out at the back of the circuit, and it was just enough to cost you that second place.
Yeah. I start second. I have a good pace, but I don't know why. But in some point, I lost the concentration and did a very silly mistake. And then when I try to push to count Alex and Pablo, but it's very difficult overtake here. So I'm very happy. 1, 2, 3 for the team Fordzilla. So not my best race, but anyway, I'm happy.
I mean, it's a brilliant result for the team, as you said, a podium lockout for the team. But you must have been in quite a difficult position there because Alex and Pablo, of course, they're fighting for the Pro Sim Championship. So did you feel that you had to be extra careful with them today?
Yeah. I have to be very careful. And anyway, I did a mistake, and I will try to win. Very careful, but I did a mistake and lose any option to win and fight with Pablo and Alice.
Well, it was an unfortunate mistake, but still a brilliant result there for the 3 of you. Best of luck now for the final race of the season.
Thank you very much.
Julian Rodriguez then third position in that race. Second place went to Pablo Lopez, and Pablo Lopez joins us now. And Pablo, we think provisionally that is enough for you to beat Alex for the Pro Sim Championship, but it was so tight at the end there.
Oh my God, yeah, it was so tight, but I think he was just trying to slow back and make me battling with Julian, but nicely Julian didn't catch me, and yeah, I couldn't attack because as soon as you get close to the guy in front in the fast section, you just get understeer. It's so difficult to pass if the guy in front doesn't make any mistake. And I mean, it's Alex Palou, no mistakes though.
Yeah, he's a tough man to beat, isn't he? But it did look like you might have had a go there. Were you tempted to try and get past him, or was that just a risk that you weren't willing to take?
I think I would if I could. I mean, I in the last corner I had a look, but suddenly I saw a lapped car there stopped before the apex, and I was panic mode there, so I back off.
Well, that was probably sensible, I think, because the last thing you needed was contact in that race. Now, I suppose you can go into the final race and just enjoy it, because the championship, we think, is decided now. What are your hopes for this final race of the season?
I will enjoy it as much as I can, because I love how the second races are made here with the reverse grid. I think it's really fun. Maybe also frustrating if you get hit in the first laps, but it's really nice to just have the edge on just your reflexes and just try to get the overtakes done and get the perfect position.
Well, that is the plan anyway. Huge congratulations, Pablo. Well done on provisionally wrapping up the championship, and good luck for the final race.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Pablo then takes second place in the race. It was his teammate, Alex Palau, though, that took the race win. Well, Alex, I've just had a very interesting chat with your teammate, Pablo, there. He thinks that you were slowing down a bit at the end there, just to try and put a bit of the pressure on him there. Was there any truth to that at all?
I was trying to. But it was tough. It was tough. We are all from the same team. Julian was from the same team, and I was like, I don't think he's gonna do it. So I was trying to slow down a bit. I knew that he's now a champ by 1 point. So I was doing my calculations and with a chat from the stream, and it was not working out. So yeah, I had to slow down a bit. At the end, I was just managing, but yeah, a shame, but I had some fun.
It's a case of what could have been, really, isn't it? Because if you'd have been able to race with us a week ago at Silverstone, we might well be looking at you leading the championship at this point, I suppose. But you had good reasons for not being with us a week ago. You were testing, I believe, in real life. How did that all go?
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Maybe if I took part in Silverstone, we would have had like 2-0. So you never know. At the end of the day, Pablo did a better job. So I was testing in real life. I was testing IndyCars in Laguna. It was a lot of fun. It was a tough decision, to be honest, to say yes to IndyCar and say no to the race at Silverstone. But at the end of the day, I had to do it, guys. I had to do it.
That's very gracious of you, Alex, but I think if someone picked up the phone and asked me whether I'd rather be here now or at Laguna Seca driving an IndyCar, I think you probably know what my answer would be. But we appreciate your support. It's been great to have you in the championship.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Alex Palau, then a worthy winner of the race, just comes short in the championship, with Pablo Lopez wrapping up the title in that race. Now, in the pro class, what a battle we had. And what a race our race winner had. Roman Balinsky, you only finished 9th in that race, but quite honestly, you're quite lucky to have finished at all, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It was a really tough race. And first of all, I just want to say I'm really sorry to Kai. None of that was intended. A complete mistake, and I'm really sorry. But it was a really tough race. I mean, from the start, I was in P4 and just kind of in dirty air for a good 4 laps, I'd say. And then I kept making a few mistakes behind. I couldn't really get my head down and kind of charge on to get through. And just going into the last corner, I clipped the grass on the exit, spun, and hit the wall, which gave me quite a lot of damage, really, especially on the front tires. Then it was just a tough race.
A really tough race, because obviously that meant that with the damage, Kai was quite a lot quicker than you, but you defended so well. I mean, we're watching on the stream now a replay of some of the side-by-side battles you had. You went side-by-side at corners that I didn't think it was possible to go side-by-side through. It's a real shame that it ended the way it did.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was really tough to race him because Kai's really quick. And definitely, I think this season, Kai's been very unlucky with everything. But yeah, it was tough to go side by side with my wheel being like right hand down on the straights. But yeah, I mean, most of the racing was good until I made a mistake, and yeah.
And we're just, I think, seeing a replay of that contact now where you say you made a mistake, but are you maybe being a bit hard on yourself?
Good end.
Roman, that is a first, I can tell you. In nearly a decade of working in motorsport, you're the first guilty racing driver I've spoken to. Huge credit to you for taking the responsibility. And it's not over yet. You've still not wrapped it up, so it could all still change in the final race.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Roman Balinsky there needs to get off now because the second race is not that far away. We're going to take a very, very short break. We'll be back with all of the action from the reverse grid race here at Brands Hatch in just a few minutes.
rallied a match.
And you'll see the 2 filters right ahead of you. Take a selfie, you're ready to race.
We are over. Welcome back, everyone, to the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy here, live from the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. The final race of the season is upon us, and whilst all 3 of our championships have now been decided, there are still a few scores to be settled and an awful lot of fun to be had over our final 20 minutes of racing. So we thank you all for joining us and sticking with us right to the end. Hope you've enjoyed the racing, not just tonight, but throughout the past 4 weeks. I know I have really enjoyed covering it here from the commentary box. And I'm really looking forward to this final race of the season. I'm joined, virtually speaking, at least in the comms box, by Damien Meaden once more. Damien, I know you've been away doing some of the calculations after that first race. It does now look like all of the titles are settled, but in pretty dramatic fashion in some cases.
Yep, absolutely. So the pro title, of course, we already knew about. Luke Browning won that at Silverstone. And Pro Sim, Pablo Lopez now with a 26-point lead. So Alex Palau by 1 point is not in it anymore. And then in the Teams Championship, Fordzilla, I think, have now officially won the Teams Championship. So big congratulations to them. Their first year, of course, in the iRacing Trophy. And they've come in and they've really made a good impression. So Teams Champions, and congratulations to them. But as you say, Andy, there's plenty of scores to be settled. I wouldn't go so far as to say this last one's just for fun.
No, certainly not. Nothing's. It's all rather serious where racing drivers are concerned. They all want to come out of this as well as they can. And we still have this 3-way fight for second place in the championship, don't we? With Roman Belinski now 14 points ahead of Frederick Lubin, who now has third place in the Pro Championship all to himself, and 22 points ahead of Kai Ascii. So, okay, Kai Ascii obviously has cause to feel a little bit miffed after what happened in race 2, although there was absolutely no malice whatsoever on Roman Belinski's part, but it obviously cost Ascii a lot of points. But it ain't over yet. He's still within striking distance in the points, and he starts ahead of Belinski, quite considerably ahead of Belinski on the grid, because this, remember, is the reversed grid race. So everyone that was within 1 lap of the lead at the end of the previous race gets reversed now to form the grid for race 2. And I believe we can now take a look at how that grid lines up for our final race of the season. So it's going to be Jaco van Plaat on the pole position with, look at that, Kai Ascii on the front row. So pretty obvious objective here for Ascii. He has to try and win the class in this race. He's got 2 pro drivers right behind him, though, James Headley and Joseph Loke, ahead of Roldan Rodriguez and Frederick Lubin, who's not far behind Ascii on the grid, nor Roman Belinski 7th. Then it's Ashley Beard and Leon Penn, with Dan Blake rounding out the top 10. Kevin Zemstra and Alex Johnson are on the 6th row of the grid. Then it's row number 7 for Julian Rodriguez and Pablo Lopez, with Alex Palau 15th. They were the top 3 from the previous race. Silas Krag-Vrolik is 16th ahead of Ryan Mikulev and Nathaniel Hodgkiss. David Castilla, Mackenzie Creswell, Matthew Crisp and Thomas Pintos will round out the 22-car grid for this, our final race of the season. It's been a highly entertaining 4 weeks of racing from British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, the second season of racing, and it all comes down to this. 20 more minutes of action around the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Jaco van der Plaat and Kai Ascii on the front row of the grid together. The lights are out, the rush towards Paddock Hill Bend begins, and on the outside line, it's a brilliant start from Kai Ascii. Can he get into Paddock Hill Bend first? Yes, he can. Kai Ascii gets the lead away from Jaco van der Plaat. He was already leading the pro class into turn 1, but now he leads the race outright, but he runs out wide. Not as wide as Van Plaat, though. He's in the gravel, so is Joseph Loke. They're both plummeting down the order. Cold tyres, cold brakes, and maybe slightly hot-headedness going into Druids Corner means that both of those drivers followed each other off the road, and that now means that Ascii has James Headley behind him as they slide out of Surtees. Frederick Lubin 3rd and Roman Belinski 4th. It's now a complete turnaround from race 1. It's pro drivers at the front, and all 3 of those drivers fighting for second in the championship are inside the top 4.
Yeah, look at Headley pressurising Kai Ascii for the race lead. Headley yet to get a podium in the second series of the iRacing Trophy. I was wrong at the end of race 1. When I said he had, I did notice Lubin had finished second. So, yeah, he's going to be pushing on hard now, trying to get a win. But for Kai Ascii, this is the perfect start. He's got the lead. Belinski is stuck behind Frederick Lubin for third and fourth. You can see them there at the bottom of your screen battling away. And there's a whole horde of Pro Sim racers bearing down on them. So this is going to be a really interesting 20 minutes to settle it.
Belinski then is 14 points ahead of Frederick Lubin for second in the championship, so he doesn't need to pass Lubin. As things stand, he would still take that position at the end of the night. Behind, it's all kicking off though. Ashley Beard round the outside of Roldan Rodriguez into Paddock Hill Bend, but he can't get the car stopped. He's in the gravel, and here come the Fordzilla Brigade. They're 3 wide into Druids, and there's contact. That was the number 19 of Julian Rodriguez involved. He gets into more contact between teammates as Matthew Crisp, I think, was the one that got tagged into a spin. Ashley Beard's been delayed as well, and Julian Rodriguez having no luck at all. He ran off the track from second place in the previous race, and now he might well be out of this one. So Beard goes round the outside then, coming back up the hill into Druid's corner, and we are about to get a whack here from Julian Rodriguez. And another one there as we get tangled together. And yeah, it was 2 teammates that then made more contact. Roldan Rodriguez was one of those, wasn't he? It was Roldan that had the contact from Rodriguez. Beard then gets sent catapulting into the barriers, and it's the number 2 car of David Castilla who goes headfirst into Rodriguez as Rodriguez is having his own spin. That was all rather unfortunate, Damien.
Yeah, the smallest bit of contact there had the biggest consequences. But for Kai Ascii, leading quite comfortably out front. You can see him now. He's just extended that gap over Headley slightly. Lubin's still keeping Belinski behind, but they are nose to tail as they cross the line, Andy. We might be back to see a change for third place.
Yeah, Belinski to the outside at Paddock. Now, that won't work, but he'll try and get the switchback, which, of course, is the move that Kai Ascii was trying to make on him at the end of race 1 before it all went wrong. It didn't quite work there for Belinski, though. Lubin was quick enough off the corner, but this defensive driving from Lubin is allowing the top 2 to get away. If Ascii were to win the race and Belinski was in 4th position, though, that would still only be a 13-point swing, and that's not even how it stands anyway, because Belinski throws it up the inside of Frederick Lubin, briefly takes 3rd place away, but Lubin is quicker on the exit, and they run wheel to wheel down Pilgrim's Drop. Lubin had the better exit speed, so drags back ahead. Can he get into Hawthorne first? I don't think he will. Belinski's got his nose still at the inside. He stubbornly refuses to give in, but this is a real risk now for Belinski, who can't afford any contact here. He goes through, runs wide at Westfield, but Lubin can't come back at him. Or can he? Looks to the inside into Sheen Curve. That was never going to work. And as Lubin runs out onto the grass, that hands a good advantage to Belinski, who really struck there when he probably didn't need to take the risk, Damien. But he could see that lovely, inviting, clean air in front of Frederick Lubin, and he knew he'd be a lot safer there than he would be tucked underneath the rear wing of the 17 car.
Yeah, he judged that lunge at Surtees to absolute perfection there, did Roman Belinski. Managed to get himself up into 3rd place, and now the question will be, can he chase after Kai Ascii and James Headley? But I just want to say, Belinski and Lubin, they had some fantastic racing together at Silverstone, and it was the same again there. Really great stuff to see.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there then from the pair of them. Belinski now already with a 1 second advantage, actually, and a little bit more because of that mistake from Lubin. This is the 3rd place man, or it was the 3rd place man in the Pro Sim class. This is now the 4th place car in Pro Sim. Silas Krag-Vrolik, who had that spin on the first lap in race 1. He's lasted a bit longer this time, and Silas has gained 5 positions then from where he started. But he's trying to gain another one now from Mackenzie Cresswell ahead of him. Cresswell is 10th overall and 6th in class, as they plummet downhill into the quick right-hander, the dauntingly quick right-hander at Surtees. Thomas Pintos behind as well, by the way, who was delayed on the opening lap, is trying to reel this lot back in. I say delayed on the opening lap. He gained 10 places, but he did have to take avoiding action when it all kicked off through the first few corners. Krag-Vrolik runs a bit wide as well, but gets it back on the road through Sheen Curve. Leaders out of clearways, and Ascii, well, not actually escaping, because it was James Headley who had the fastest lap last time around, 1:16.37, but Ascii might just have gone quicker. Yes, he did, a 16.1. The gap is now creeping towards 1 second.
You would have to say, on balance over the course of the season, Kai Ascii has definitely deserved a win as well, wouldn't you, Andy? Had some really great results. I remember even as early back as Donington Park, the first round, when he challenged Palau and Browning for that race lead, and that net code on that occasion unfortunately just cost him a good result. So he's had more than his fair share of bad luck, I would say, Kai Ascii, so it'd be good if he can bring home a win, and equally for James Headley, it'd be a great result if he can hang on to 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, I was amazed when I looked back at the season results earlier on today that Ascii's only had one podium until, well, still has only one podium, which came, of course, at Silverstone last time out. I feel like I've been talking about Ascii all season long as a front runner, but just he hasn't quite been able to piece it all together, has he? And I think that first race really rather summed up his misfortune, really. It would be really nice to see Kai get a good result here. He's been announced at Carlin, of course, for the 2021 Formula 4 season. Looking forward to seeing how he gets on in the real championship a little bit later on this year. On board with James Headley then in second position, chasing after Ascii in front. It's the JHR Developments driver giving chase. It's a 16.3 for the leader and a 16.2 for Headley. So kind of toing and froing here, isn't it? Ascii's quicker on one lap, Headley's quicker on the next, but quicker than both of them by some way on that lap. His first full lap in clean air was Roman Belinski, a 1:15.76. He's less than 2 seconds behind, and at that rate, Damien, he's going to catch them. Damien's gone again. We'll get back to him.
Yeah, I think he is. You don't.
There you are. No, he's definitely
Sorry,
gone.
no. Everybody's telling me I'm gone. I'm still sat here. No, really good first lap in clean air for Belinski.
Yeah, yes, there we go. I've got you now. Sorry, you were phasing in and out in my ears. It was like something out of an episode of Doctor Who. I think you're back with me now. Belinski can catch these two, can't he, I think? And but then what does he do when he gets there? Because he doesn't really need to go on the attack now. I'm sure you've been working away on the abacus and trying to figure out what this means for the points. But third place should be enough, surely. Right, I'm not imagining it this time, am I? There's no response from Mr. Meaden. We'll get back to him.
You'd think I was doing this on purpose now, wouldn't you? You really would think that I was waiting until it seems like I'm not here to interject. So I can only keep apologising. Sorry, it's one of those things with online sim racing. Sometimes the internet's a bit rubbish. Anyway. You were probably asking me a question of some sort, weren't you?
Well, like every other time your internet decides to conk out, I was asking you about points, which isn't really helping me get past the idea this could be some great conspiracy to just never give me a straight answer about points. But third place for Belinski should be enough, should it not? So even if he catches the top two, he doesn't really have to do anything with them, does he?
No, at the moment it's looking good for Roman. He'd still be 12 points ahead of Ascii as it stands in this race. So, as you say, he doesn't need to make any moves. It will purely be about whether he wants to. But we said it at Silverstone, and I'll say it again. There's a reason they're the racing drivers and we're the commentators.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, speaking of racing, some good racing going on here for fourth place. Frederick Lubin in the fourth position at the moment, but Alex Palau, who's gained 10 positions in this race from 15th on the grid, is leading the Pro Sim class again, as he did in the previous race. And in fact, it's situation normal, really, because it's Pablo Lopez right behind him. So this is exactly how they finished in the previous race. And now there's no championship battle going on between the two of them. They can really work together, as indeed I think they have, to move through the field. Lubin is the next man in their sights. Again, wouldn't make any difference for championship points or indeed class results, because he's in a different class to these cars. But these Fordzilla drivers want to get away from Kevin Zemstra and Leon Penn, who aren't that far behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to want to get another 1, 2, 3 if they go. Well, rather 1, 2. If they can. Obviously, Rodriguez out of this race after that incident up at Druids. Frederick Lubin defending well at them from them at the moment. The danger here, though, is that if they spend too much time behind him, they might start to back themselves up into the likes of Zemstra and Penn, who aren't too far behind.
No, exactly. So this could become a four-way battle for Pro Sim honours. Julian Rodriguez is still in the race. I know this because he just set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 15.5. I'll forgive Damien for missing that, though, because for reasons I still haven't quite got to the bottom of, his surname on iRacing is Moreno, Julian Moreno Rodriguez, as here his teammate, Alex Palau, gets up the inside of Frederick Lubin at the far end of the track, and they almost make contact through Dingle Dale into Sheen Curve. I think they did make contact that time, and now Pablo Lopez joins in the fun. How's this going to work out? More contact. Palau's off. Lubin's off. Lubin 8 finishing second in the Pro Championship now because that's heavy damage. He'll have to limp back to the pits for repairs. Pablo Lopez came through all of that to take the Pro Sim lead, but now look what's happened. Palau is second with Kevin Zemstra all over him. Another prime example there, really, Damien, of, we enjoy these battles between the Pro Sim and the Pro drivers, but when it all goes wrong, you do kind of sit there thinking, well, was it really worth it?
Yeah, but it's the smallest of margins there, Andy. I don't think any malice in that at all. They've both just tried to take the line. I think Palau was hoping he might still be able to hang on around the outside of Lubin. Just unfortunate contact. I wouldn't particularly put that to either driver. But like you say, brilliant for Pablo Lopez. The Red Sea just parted in front of him, and away he goes into the race lead.
I'm trying to work out whether that was Hodgkiss or Cresswell that came within a millimetre at most of collecting the...
Now, what's happened to Headley here, Andy? Sorry to interrupt you, but James Headley's dropped down the order.
What has happened to James Headley? Oh, I think now my turn to have some issues. It's catching. James Headley with a spin. I did catch the back end of that, so that was coming out of Druids. I'll be completely honest, I missed the very start of that, so I don't think there was contact. I think he did it all on his own. Damien might have seen more than me.
No, I saw exactly the same as you, Andy. It looks as though we both got struck down at the same time there. It's. I was saying to you during the break, it's ironic, isn't it? We have a faultless season, no technical faults whatsoever, and then on season finale night, we get hit with them. But,
you can trust computers to let you down when you can least afford it, can't you? That's something I've definitely learned over the years. James Headley then, down to 5th position. Lopez goes 3rd. Palau goes 4th. Headley's still with them and with no obvious damage. I don't think he ever hit anything in all of that. So James Headley should be able to continue to charge on. But of course, this now changes this battle at the front. It's Ascii and Balinsky again, but it's a role reversal from race 1, Damien. In race 1, it was Ascii catching a wounded Balinsky. This time, Belinski seems to have the pace, even though Ascii has no damage that we know of. Belinski just seems quicker. But again, how much of a risk will he take, especially given what happened between these two in the previous race?
Yeah, but I think it's important to say that, that first race, the battle between them was just superb. There's just one moment at Paddock Hill Bend, and it ended in disaster. But I think the two of them really, for that first race, were, setting a really good example to the rest of how it is done. So Belinski now closing to within about 2/3 of a second of Ascii, and I personally think we're in for a really good end to the race. So fingers crossed, this time it all goes to plan, and we get some really great racing.
Well, the good thing is they've got a really big advantage now over the next, car, but certainly over the next pro car. They are 8 seconds ahead of Pablo Lopez, who is 3rd, and in the Pro Sim class. So actually the nearest pro car is Nathaniel Hodgkiss, all the way down in 7th place, some 11 seconds off the lead. So they could almost have a bit of a coming together and still come out ahead of the rest of the pro field. So for Belinski, he could afford to have a go here, maybe, and not have to worry about it ruining his chances of securing second in the title race. So, yeah, I tend to agree with you there, Damien. I think the second half of this race is going to get very tasty indeed, because yet again, Belinski was quicker on the previous lap by nearly half a second, despite the fact it was a personal best for Ascii. So Ascii is giving us everything he has here. Belinski's just got that little bit more in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the gap has started to stabilise a little bit on this lap. It was about 0.7 of a second when they crossed the line last time. It's only down to 6 now. So Belinski is catching, but not by quite as much. So he's got another 6 minutes to go, so plenty of time yet. But he wants to be careful with it. He doesn't run out of laps to have a go at Kai Ascii, because as we saw when it was Belinski defending from Ascii, when these two get into a battle, it lasts quite a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. We could be for plenty of side-by-side action in the near future. It was a 15.8 for Ascii, so another personal best. He's getting quicker and quicker, and 15.7 for Belinski. So as you said, a 1/10.5 or so gained, but there was a mistake there for Ascii going up through Druids. So Belinski closes again. The trouble is he's now in that turbulent air. When you get within half a second or so of the car in front, you really start to notice the lack of downforce on particularly the front wing. So a lot of understeer tends to creep in, but also through the high-speed corners, a little bit of twitchy rear end, so to speak. A bit of snap oversteer can start to affect your speed. So Belinski will be starting to experience all of that now, but it's not stopping his progress. He takes another 10th out of Ascii, just going down through Hawthorne. He's within striking range now, but where does he make the move? Ideally, into one of the big braking zones, either at Paddock or Druids or Surtees. The other option, of course, is to try and force a mistake out of Ascii and try and get the run on the exit of the corner. It's going to be a fascinating battle. It's on board with Belinski, looking at Ascii, the gap down to 1/4 of a second.
Yeah, well, you were sort of thinking there about certain places on the circuit that Belinski might try a move. I don't think Surtees would have been the first one that sprung to your mind until he did it a few laps ago. So I guess the message here there is that Kai Ascii is going to need to be on the defensive every which way, and he looks to have pulled out a little bit more of a gap now. Andy, I think it's gone just over a second.
Yeah, there was a bit of a slow run through paddock, I think, there for Belinski, and I think that is just that dirty air. Of course, you're arriving at the corner faster than you normally would anyway, because you've got the slipstream effect, and then you've got the dirty air as well, which affects your cornering ability. So it's a bit of a double whammy, really. You think that getting that slipstream is an automatic advantage, but it's not always quite that simple. A few changes further back, by the way. Nathaniel Hodgkiss just took 6th place away from Leon Penn. Again, a change between a pro driver going ahead of a pro sim, so it doesn't affect Leon's position within the pro sim category. Leon, of course, only 2 points behind Julian Rodriguez in the fight for 4th place in the Pro Sim Championship. So Rodriguez's issues in this race are going to give Leon Penn potentially a spot within the top 4, which is maybe not a huge amount to write home about, but it's still 4th is better than 5th, so he'll be pretty happy when he finds out about that after the race. We are, though, into the final 3.5 minutes of this one, the final round of Season 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Belinski, you're right, Damon, he lost that time at the start of the lap, but within a lap, he's got most of it back, so he might be back within striking range again before much longer.
What he could really do with here, Andy, is one of those big long straights we had at Snetterton. The toe there was absolutely mega. It's at Donington Park as well, so the problem with Brands Hatch is that it's got a lot of heavy braking zones which are good for overtakes, but it also has a lot of high-speed corners, so the dirty air you've mentioned is going to be hampering Balinsky slightly, but you never know, he might pull off another daredevil move into Surtees. But Ascii, you have to say at the moment, doing everything he needs to do. He's not put a wheel wrong in this race.
Yeah, it's a good point you make there, actually, Damon. If you compare this track to Snetterton as a good example, a lot of the long straights where you can get the slipstream at Snetterton are followed immediately by tight corners. So you get the benefit of the toe down the straight, but you don't then have the negative effects of the dirty air through the low-speed corner at the end of it. Whereas here, a lot of the long straights are followed by quick corners. The pit straight leads directly into Paddock Hill Bend. Pilgrim's Drop leads directly into Hawthorne, and this straight out of Stirling's leads directly into the quick right-hander at Clearway. So yes, you gain in a straight line, but then you just don't have the grip through the next corner to do anything about it. That's why this track is harder to follow at than Snetterton or Donington Park or certainly Silverstone from a week ago. This lot aren't struggling to follow each other closely though. Nose-to-tail battles here going down into Clearways. Mackenzie Creswell trying to get back ahead of Leon Penn, and in doing so they're losing a bit of time now to James Headley, who on the previous lap actually was a bit slower than them, but on this one he is reeling them back in again. Headley will be kicking himself, won't he, after that mistake he made at Druids Corner. We're not really seeing the best of James Headley from this season, but he will be the first to tell us, won't he, that he's not a sim racing specialist, is James. He's definitely one of those pro drivers that is handy in a sim, but you'll definitely see more out of him on a real racetrack.
Well, I mean, James has absolutely nothing to prove after his debut season in F4 last year. Took a few race wins, including that really great hat-trick at his local race at Thruxton. So James Headley more than established himself. Of course, Ginetta Junior champion the year before as well. So his CV in the real world is pretty solid for a driver his age. And like you say, sim racing is something he does for a bit of fun, just to learn the circuits, just to get some extra lap-ins. He doesn't put as much time or resources into it, but yeah, he's running quite well at the moment. Belinski still within touching distance of Ascii though, and I think, Andy, we're about to head on to the last lap of the race.
Yes, we are. The gap is hovering at around half a second then. Has Belinski got anything for Ascii? I think I agree with you, Damien. I do think that if he can have a go, he will have a go. It is the last lap of the season after all, but is he going to be able to get close enough? Paddock has been and gone. So too now has Druids. Belinski takes an early apex there, not really to try and get up the inside, but just to try and distract Ascii with that little flash of colour in the rear view mirror, but Ascii is not for making a mistake. He's inch perfect out of Graham Hill Bend as well, which means Belinski isn't close enough to have a go into Surtees. So that's another overtaking opportunity been and gone. And now we're into that high-speed section where, although he is close, I don't think he'll get any closer unless Ascii puts a foot wrong. Underneath the bridge, down Pilgrim's Drop and into Hawthorne, dab on the brakes, down one gear, flat through the apex, right out to the edge of the road, and then the same sort of thing through Westfield, really. Dab on the brakes to settle the car, but then the downforce of these Dallara Formula 3 chassis carries you through the corner at great speed, and Ascii in particular is doing it really, really well. Into Stirling's for the final time. The final race of the season is nearly over, and Ascii has had to wait until now to finally get his first ever win in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. A long wait, but it was worth it. Ascii, after a troubled start to the night, wins the final round of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy here at Brands Hatch. Roman Belinski is second, and it was a really entertaining fight all night long, with Belinski coming out on top in the fight for second in the points. Pablo Lopez is your Pro Sim champion, and he rounds that out with a race victory in race 2, getting ahead of Alex Palau in some mid-race shenanigans there. Palau is second in class, and Kevin Zemstra is in third. Now, has Kevin had a podium? No, I don't think he has. So that's Kevin Zemstra's first podium within the Pro Sim category this year, and a 5th place overall to go with it. Nathaniel Hodgkiss is next, 6th overall, but gets a class podium in the Pro class. And that is, no, not his first podium, because he was third in the reverse grid race at Silverstone a week ago. Good solid end to the season for him. Then it's Mackenzie Creswell in 7th, James Headley 8th, Leon Penn 9th, and Alex Johnson rounds out the top 10. So Belinski couldn't quite get there in the end, but I'm almost not too mad about that, because Kai Ascii, we said all along, deserved a race victory out of this season, and he didn't put a foot wrong in that one. Yes, he had an advantage starting on the front row, but he still had to execute perfectly, which he absolutely did. Kai Ascii takes the win, Roman Belinski second, Pablo Lopez third, Alex Palau is fourth ahead of Kevin Zemstra. Then it's Nathaniel Hodgkiss, Mackenzie Creswell, James Headley, Leon Penn, and Alex Johnson rounding out the top 10. Matthew Crisp is next ahead of Silas Krag-Vrolik. Thomas Pintos was 13th, Joseph Lope was 14th and 1 lap down. So too Ashley Beard after their first lap incidents. Dan Blake, I didn't see where he got caught up in all of that, but he went 2 laps down after a pit stop. Then running at the finish, but more than a lap down, was Julian Rodriguez in 17th. Frederick Lubin was not a finisher, nor was Ryan Mikleff or Jaco van der Plat, Roland Rodriguez or David Castilla after their rather embarrassing collision on the opening lap. That is how our final round of the season wraps up then. And before we have a chance to chat with our podium finishers, Damien, your thoughts on that final race? Kai Ascii, a deserving race winner, and as I said, he really was absolutely wheel perfect in that one, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did an absolutely fantastic job, did Kai. And I think to put the disappointment there will have been after race 1 behind him so quickly, and to put a great drive in says volumes about him as a driver. So really look forward to seeing him in the Real World Series later this year. And ditto Roman Belinski. You know, the two of them raced so well in race 1, and that was incredibly respectful again from race 2. And for Carlin, they end the virtual season with a 1-2 finish. Sure, that won't be the first time I say Carlin 1-2 at some point this year. They're a very successful team, but they've definitely ended the virtual season on a high there.
Yeah, and it could well be these two very drivers, couldn't it, that end up getting those 1-2s for Carlin, because they will be teammates in Formula 4 this year. Right then, podium finishers are ready to have a chat. We'll start with the race winner this time. And the race winner for the first time ever in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy is Kai Ascii. Well, Kai, I personally thought this would probably have happened a month ago at Donington Park. You've had to wait a while for this first win. Was it worth it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was a shame at Donington, but you know, things happen. It always happens in iRacing, so it's a shame. But yeah, race went pretty well.
You're very calm for someone that's just, I would imagine, been under quite a lot of pressure at the end there, because Roman caught you halfway through the race and he just wouldn't let you go, would he? He was always about half a second or so behind. One wrong move and he'd have been straight through.
Yeah, exactly. It was really fun with Rom at the end. Yeah, wish it would have been more of a fight, but you know, still really good racing. It was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you had really close racing in that race, but some wheel-to-wheel battles in the previous race. I have to ask you about the previous race. I know it's not the highlight of your season, certainly. Have you had a chat with Roman after the ending of race 1?
Yeah, we have. It's all good now. Yeah, it was really fun racing actually in race 1. It was just a shame in the end he lost it, but yeah, it was pretty fun otherwise.
Well, great fun to watch, and we really are all really happy to see you get this first win. It's well deserved, and a bit of a long time coming. Well done on the victory, mate.
Thank you.
Kai Ascii then gets the win in the final round of the championship. Second place was Roman Belinski, and well, that was a bit more like it in that you managed to stay away from each other in that one, Roman. But I'm sure, actually, given half the chance to have a pop at him, I'm sure you'd have taken it with both hands.
Yeah, I think it was a lot better that race. I mean, it was good to come from like mid-pack, but I mean, halfway through the race, I was in a good position behind Kai, and I kind of decided from last race, what obviously me hitting him, I thought I wouldn't pressurize him this race and he could go for his first win, which was really good for him. And yeah, so congrats to him.
Oh, that's interesting. So there was a conscious decision. You knew you were doing enough for second in the championship, I guess, at that point. So no need to take too big of a risk. You took a few risks in the early laps, though. I was amazed at the early progress you made. Was that mainly good fortune with other people going off, or were you sort of really getting stuck in to try and gain some ground early?
I mean, yeah, there's always a bit of luck involved. And me and Freddie were on a Discord call to each other. So I was kind of saying, let's go. And he was saying, let's battle. But yeah, I mean, in the end, I got past and started to catch Kai and James. And then I think James just made a little mistake coming out of turn 2. And then, yeah, it was just kind of staying in P2, really.
And for you now, I guess the attention turns to the real Formula 4 Championship, which kicks off in a few months' time. Your second season in the championship, and after a really promising first season with those 3 podiums in your debut season, you must have really, really high hopes for 2021.
Yeah, hopefully 2021 will be a really good season, not just for me, but the team, because I know Carlin's doing everything they can, which is really great. And yeah, hopefully it will be a very, very good season.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all looking forward to it getting underway in, as I say, just a few short months' time. Roman, thank you for your support in the iRacing Trophy. It's been great having you and Carlin on board. And congratulations on second place in the Pro Drivers' Championship.
Thank you very much.
Roman Belinski then gets himself second in the championship, second in the race as well. Third place in that race, though, goes to our number 1 Pro Sim driver. We spoke to him earlier on, Pablo Lopez, after wrapping up the title in race 1. Pablo, it's a race win in the second race, but 11 places gained. That sounds like hard work.
That was hard and also lucky, because I was in the better position I could in some situations, and I didn't get caught, and Julian, for example, did, and also Alex did. So I just was the luckiest one, maybe. But I take it for sure.
Yeah, you need a little bit of luck in this game, don't you? It did look like Alex was probably going to have the advantage there. What did you see of the collision that Alex had halfway through the race?
I saw him going in the outside. I was like, oh my god, I will eat both of them. And now, nicely, I went into the inside on the second to last corner, and they touch, and I had the space to be alive. So I gained the position there, and I took it.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And it was enough to get you another class victory. And that is your 3rd Pro Sim class win of the year. It must mean a lot, because these Pro Sim drivers, there are some really, really quick drivers in there, yourself included. And then when you add people like Alex Palau and Roldan Rodriguez, who have achieved quite a lot in the real world, it must mean an awful lot to be the best of a group of really quick drivers.
There are so many fast drivers on here. I mean, Kay and Rom are blazing fast, but Palau is, I think, it has that click that goes a little bit on top of everybody in this track at least, and he was perfect. I missed Luke today because he's nice to race as well and blazing fast as well. So I am glad I could race with all these guys this season. It was a pleasure for me and the team for Sila to be part of this championship, and I hope for more from the British F4.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Pablo. Thank you for joining us for the season, and congratulations again on the championship.
Thank you very much, and congratulations for the organization. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Pablo. Thank you. So Pablo Lopez then gets the win in the Pro Sim category, and always a good idea to get in the good books of the commentators and championship organisers, isn't it? And he seems to have learnt that pretty well over time. Well, Damien, that's it. I don't know what to do with myself now. What will I do of a Monday evening? Well, I suppose one thing I can do is look forward to what's still to come. I touched upon it there with Roman Belinski. We're not a million miles away now, are we? Hopefully, at least, from going racing in the real world. And this year's Formula 4 Championship is shaping up to be an absolute cracker.
Oh, it really is, Andy. Yeah, you're absolutely right to be sitting from now until May getting ready, because if it's anything like the last few years, it's It's going to be action aplenty and thrill a minute, definitely. So it all kicks off at Thruxton on the 8th and 9th of May, and we've had plenty of drivers, Ascii, Balinsky included, who've Mackenzie Cresswell too, who've already confirmed their spots on the grid for this year. So we've got another announcement coming tomorrow. JHR announcing their second driver, so I would definitely keep an eye on social media for that tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you what time because it's good to leave some mystery, isn't it? But yeah, we've got another fantastic year on the BTCC support package, which is just a great platform for all of our drivers, and we can't wait. So yeah, everybody, make sure you get yourself tuned into ITV4 from May onwards, and see what some of the next generation of motorsport stars can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very, very eager to see who comes out on top this year. I think it's going to be a really competitive season in the British Formula 4 Championship, just as we saw in the iRacing Trophy. I mean, what's your sort of final takeaway from this? It's been an interesting second season, a very different feel to it, I think, than the first season, a much shorter, more compact format with just these 4 race nights within a month, the mixed grid between the Pro and Pro Sims, which I think worked really well. I've enjoyed it. I think there's been some brilliant racing. What's your takeaway from it all?
The mix between Pro and Pro Sim drivers was exactly what I was going to mention there. I've been really impressed with how well they've both competed against each other and yet within their own races at the same time. So we've had really good strength in depth, and I think both have given a really good account of themselves. It's been great to have people like Alex join us as well, and it's been great to have the reigning champion on the grid, several of the drivers from this year. It's just a really good opportunity to get racing drivers from all different walks of the community together and see who's best. And I think we've had a really good couple of months doing this. 4 weeks, I should say, rather. It really is a month, isn't it? Just spread over 2. And it's been good fun. It's definitely blown away some of the cobwebs, and I think now we're all ready to go racing again later in the year. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. It's been an absolute pleasure, and our thanks to yourself, Damien, for all of your help, and British Formula 4 for once again bringing this fantastic racing to us. And thanks to iRacing as well. The iRacing network have been taking our broadcasts for this second season. Thank you very much for all of your support as well. I hope you've all enjoyed watching back at home on whichever network it was you were watching the action from. Thanks to Graham Sesford at Year One as well for putting together the broadcasts, and everyone else. There are so many people. Momentum Social have done some great work with some of their content they've given us. It's been a great season, and we're really looking forward to seeing what is coming up in the near future. That, though, is all we have time for here from Brands Hatch. Thank you so much, everyone who's joined us tonight and throughout the last 4 weeks. It's been a fantastic season of racing in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy that sees Luke Browning take the Pro Drivers' Championship, Pablo Lopez and Fordzilla successful in the Pro Sim and Teams Championships, respectively, and some great racing up and down the grid throughout each one of the 8 races we've had. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again in the very near future.
Right ahead of you. Take a selfie. You're ready to race.
We are open.